Bradley Holly does not get going. Everybody has to try and take avoiding maneuvers, someone even taking to the grass. And the front row just had a horrible start as Raymond Day also gets swamped. Boucher is going to go from fourth to first by the first turn.
That is now Ozzie Milwain trying to take a little bit of a look. Oh, what a great move by Michael Broomhead. Caught Andrew Hardman napping, and now they're going to be side by side going into the Curva Grande. Is Fonseca and McKenzie still going at it down into Rit. Fonseca holding it out for now. A little bit of a better run, though, for McKenzie.
Oh, and a bump. He gets into the back of him. Fonseca spins off. And McKenzie, is he going to get third? Because here comes Tavitas, and Tavitas takes third away from both of them.
Indeed, and now Almanar looking for a little bit of a fight back. He's going to poke his nose to the inside. That's a very tricky area to try to get that move done. Move's going to favor back, but Almanar's going to hold it around the outside. He has got it done and dusted. A great move for Jonathan Almanar.
Allowing him to retain that sixth position for now, but once again, a better exit, and this time the over-under worked a treat for Corey Lotfula. He's going to get the inside, and this drag race up to 130R should go in his favor, depending on how brave Doug Bacchignone is. Let's see, and not brave enough is the answer.
You heard that exasperation out of me, Joe. A bad push there, catches it, taps from behind, completely sideways, massive opposite lock, and he keeps it pointed the right way. Great job, Byron McDonald.
This is it. Big draft. Almost middle of the road there for Topi Kortanimi. Up the inside goes Togo Hisada. He has to get on the brakes, though. They're side by side through 130R. This is the battle for the win on the final lap here. Kortanimi stays defensive, coming into the Casio triangle. Squeezing him.
Karthik Pai cannot do much here except break his late as he dares, which he tries and keeps an overlap into the left-hander, around the right-hander. He's got the outside. That tends to see better momentum, and it does this time. But now he's on the long way around from multiple corners and just gets fed out to the outside of the track. It is not there for Karthik Pai, and he finally gives up the ghost. Defensive move out of Mark Kalin denies him for now, but he goes a little wide at the apex.
Does indeed. There you see the move from Jacques Boucher. He's going to try to take it out into that little kink now, but he's going to have to go the long way around Cascades. It's not going to work out, but that's going to open up the door to Bradley Holly. There he goes on through up into the podium position.
The absolute beginners have always welcomed drivers of all skill levels and consider themselves a teaching league. They encourage and educate one another to help everyone raise their level of racing. But today's classroom puts the floaties in the bin and tosses the students into the deep end. Who will swim and who will sink at Detroit? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round one of the Absolute Beginners League, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Often cited among the most difficult and punishing circuits on iRacing, Detroit takes no prisoners. Let's head to our track guide to find out why. Welcome to the Belle Isle Street Circuit. Situated in a beautiful park on Belle Isle itself, it rests in the Detroit River, sandwiched between the Motor City and Canada. With it being in the far north of the Midwestern United States, as you'd expect, harsh winters make this a bone-jarringly bumpy track. It's most known for IndyCar's yearly visit, but has also seen IMSA hold rounds here lately. The 14 narrow corners only add up to a mere 2.3 miles in length, but it can tend to feel like a lot more just from the sheer stress of keeping your car out of the walls. Runoff is non-existent in the majority of corners, so mistakes tend to be punished with race-ending damage. The dangers include the tight and twisty fountain section with its rapid-fire set of bends, and the frightening turns 12 and 13, which end the lap with two swift kinks. However, the most notorious spot on the track is the exit of Turn 2, made famous by collecting the Corvette pace car into its hungry walls one year. The first 2 turns are a quick chicane, so the extreme change of direction, plus the rise in the track as it crosses over a creek, means grip and balance can disappear in an instant. While the setup of the car can sometimes help lessen the annoyance of the bumps a little, what this place all comes down to is driver skill and daring. Precision will pay off with the close proximity of the barriers. While it isn't a stroll in the park for drivers, fans get to enjoy the beauty of the scenery, all while watching some of the most thrilling racing an American street course has to offer. Well, DJ, it looks like we may be moving over to the other side of the river, of course, for this race in real life soon. But boy, these guys have got their work cut out for them today.
Yeah, they certainly do, Joe. This is going to be a very interesting track for the Absolute Beginners League and a little counter to what we normally see in the draft traditional style racing. There's really only 2 overtaking opportunities on the track, and that's going down into turn 3 and then going down off of the strand into turn 7. Outside of that, it's really all about car control. These cars are going to be very, very light and easy to spin out going through the Casino Way complex of corners, that 1-2, and then the ever-present fountain section, always difficult, particularly getting the car woed down for turn 11, as you really got to be applying brake pressure as you're unloading the steering wheel as much as possible. A little bit similar to the way you would approach turn 7 at Bahrain, for example. So very, very tricky. But turns 3 to 6, that's all about setup, just keeping as minimal as possible. Any of the mistakes there is the walls are very, very close and will come back to bite you if you're not careful.
Certainly a traditional street circuit, if there ever was one, here at Detroit's. And, well, the championship was just finished last season, so let's take a look at how that wound up with Philip Hammer really walking away with it compared to previous seasons. It's been so close and so tight that it's unusual to see that 21-point gap. And then Matuszynski, Pleasure, and Burns were pretty distant behind, with George barely eking out Remco in the end. We also have the team's championship here, DJ. That was a little closer.
It was indeed just a hair closer on that team side, as RT Racing was able to take the victory over Two Stupid Dogs by a mere 8 points, with Evolve Sim Sports back 17 points off of the lead. Pretty big gap then back to Video Brewers Racing Team, although they were in a fierce contest the entire way across the season with Team Kombacht.
Now, for today's event, if you saw last season, you're already familiar, but again, things are slightly new here. 50-minute races now, and 2 fuel stops that they will need to take to get to the finish of the race. It is open setup still, and they have a spare car if they run into damage. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of drivers have to use that today, and they have 2 pit stops to try and come in and use it if they do get it, so that should hopefully fit within their window. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but right now they are just getting ready to head off into the qualifying session with a mere 10 minutes, and the lap times looking at about a minute 45 to get around here. I suspect that drivers are going to have to really hustle to try and find themselves some space, because there's a pretty big field here today, DJ. So this qualifying session is going to be packed.
Yeah, it really and truly is. Looking upwards of about 40 or more cars out on track. I think I'm actually seeing 47 entries, so a massive field here today. And unlike tracks where we've seen these guys run, like the Red Bull Ring, where you really want to get the draft, I think setting a good qualifying lap is really going to come down to trying to find a little bit of clean air where you're not going to be blocked up with the car in front of you. So that is going to be absolutely crucial for these drivers out here today.
So we're right on board with Potacek here, his first lap out. So he's not setting a time. This is just his out lap to get the car rolling and going. Coming up onto the strand, the back stretch that heads along the river. And he can finally stretch the legs of this little machine out. You can see it's not exactly straight either before he comes into the braking of the fountain section. And that is one of the tightest and perhaps, I think, one of the easiest to block up sections in all of the iRacing schedule we've got here.
Yeah, it certainly is very, very easy as we stay on board here. You really don't want to be riding too much of the curbs. Very easy to get the car off center there. And here's that tricky turn 10 and 11 sequence I was talking about. You can see how you've got to kind of apply the brakes, then straighten out the car as much as possible, then get back out onto the power. It is a sequence of corners that can really easily throw you off. Very, very difficult, and I would not be surprised if we see a driver or two get caught out by it today.
You can see that those 10 minutes include trying to get out for that warm-up lap. Potacek is really wheeling this thing around to get as much as he can out of it. We now hop on the roll hoop as he starts his first flyer. And even with him getting out there immediately, it is only 8 minutes left to go. So we're looking at him essentially running about 5 laps here.
Yeah, it's not going to be a whole lot. And if you get caught up in lap traffic, as you can see that whole flock of skippies behind, then it's going to be very tricky as we're having some time starting to come in. Christopher Crook, Christopher Giros, and the fan belt, Johan van der Velde, up into P3.
Yeah, those are, of course, still out laps, so they're not going to be all that competitive, but at least they've got one out there if we do find a number of drivers that lack a time, which I don't think is out of the question. Here they come through the sequence of 3, 4, 5, and 6. Very fast and flowing corners. Well, coming at you fast, really, if anything, as we watch Ludwig Sauer at the close to the front of this group. It's Vincent Brame in front of him in the dark 25 machine, someone off to the inside there. And that is Peter Galler absolutely flying past the others.
Yeah, just trying to take advantage of the draft. Now, this run here on Strand Drive going to be one of the areas where you can take an advantage of that draft. You can work a little bit on it, but it's not going to be all that strong. I think you're going to gain much more time being precise in the twisty bits than you are by tucking up in the draft in that section.
Yeah, I have to agree on that one. They're finally out of the fountain section. Now, on their way along Sunset Drive, which bends around twice here, and then you're essentially onto the front stretch. It looks like Potacek a bit slow. Not sure what's going on there. He eases up to let everybody else by, so Peter Galler now going to be our first one to set a competitive time. As he crosses the line, it is going to be a 45.3 that everybody else has to meet. Starting to see a few others tick onto the board, but nobody able to go quicker than Galler.
No, Galler able to hold that time for now. Kleiser close to him, only about 1/10 of a second off, as you see some drivers doing a little bit of weaving here and there on that straightaway on Central Avenue as they work their way into these flowing sections. Such a beautiful park that this Belle Isle circuit is. You can see all of the foliage. If you do get the chance to go there in real life, so many wonderful things to check out, including the Dawson Great Lakes Museum, which is just off to the left of turn 6. I've had a chance to go there myself. It's quite lovely.
Yeah, I've been to this race way back in '99 myself, and I'll be sad to see it go if they do officially leave and head off for the mainland, for Detroit, down in the inner city. But hopefully they'll put on a good show down there as we watch Titus de Jong now in that number 90 machine. See what he can do as he currently sits in the 39th position without a lap time on the board. So he wants to try and get one out here as he comes through the fountain section. Up ahead of him, that is Henrik Kamara that he is chasing. That should give him just a hint of a toe. Doesn't look like he's close enough that he's being held up either, so this might work out well for him.
Yeah, I think this is right at about in that Goldilocks zone for him. We jump over here to Heinrich Kamara. Oh, you can see just how squirrely those cars are wanting to get. It's very easy. There's a bump about halfway through the apex onto turn 11 that you've got to catch just right. If you get the throttle on a little bit early there, it'll throw you out. As David Burns goes to the top very quickly. Giuseppe Tellini and Ludwig Sauer, though, quickly pipping him.
45.7 there for our Titus de Jong. That'll put him into 16th. We're watching JR Hoops coming around to start another lap. The Virginia's driver showing some pride there. Now, he's coming up to a portion of the track that's become a bit infamous. The turns 1 and 2 over the bridge onto Central Avenue. Notorious not just for race cars, but even once wrecked a pace car out here, DJ.
Yeah, exactly. I believe it was a GM executive driving one of the new Corvettes that came over that exact curve right there. And you talk about that little bit of elevation change coming over it. He just goosed the throttle a little bit, and the car spun around, crashed into the wall on the formation lap for the IndyCar race in 2018. And frankly, that is something that drivers here today are going to have to keep in mind, because it's so easy to do that coming through that sequence of corners. Let's stay here with Figueres. As you can see right here, it just kind of crests over, and you've got to be feathering the throttle right there. That little bump, if you are full throttle there and the car is even a little bit sideways, you're going to find that rear end just spinning out on you.
Not a lot of elevation change with it being on an island on a river, but it does have that one spot, and there is a perfect example of exactly what we were talking about, as someone just slapped the wall. I think that was Zamolo who just did that one there. And Parks illustrating now as he comes out of pit lane that it dumps you right into that section as well, DJ. With 2 pit stops, I'm a little bit concerned about what it's going to be like if we get guys are off strategy.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very tricky. If you're coming out there in traffic, it's not exactly like you've got an easy feed onto the track. Indeed, it's one of those things that you're right on the racing line. Is if you're driving the car, you want to bring it as wide as possible out there. And drivers, both exiting the pits and coming around on track, are going to have to be very careful and very heads up.
Josh Brain finally gets one on the board. That puts him into 10th. He really needed that because he didn't have a competitive time yet. We only have about 2 laps left. Matichensky now takes the pole position, and Philip Hammer responds as he goes up to the top spot.
Does indeed. Philip Hammer just carrying on from where he was last season, but only about a 1/10 of a second separating himself and Matichinsky. So very, very close up at the top. I anticipate this being a good battle all the way around. We ride on board right now with Ludwig Sauer. Sauer, one of the drivers that we saw put in some good times. He's currently 3rd. Let's hope he doesn't get caught up with any of this traffic in front of him.
Yeah, that car in front of him is actually David Burns, another one that is usually vying for the championship in this series. He gets a reset this time around to see if he can do better, but he's going to pull off to the side. He's not happy with that lap and let the others behind him carry on. So can Sauer go better? Galler's the one in front of him. He briefly held the pole position, but it looks like Sauer with the slipstream should have a pretty good one here. 43.6 for his quickest time. This time through, it is going to be a 44 flat. That is definitely not quicker, so he gets one last shot at it.
But who is quicker is going to be Giuseppe Tellini, who's able to come in with the fastest lap, and that is only 14 thousandths of a second faster than Hammer, but those 14 seconds all that he needs. Josh Brain there coming out of the fountain section, getting a little bit squirrely, that rear end sliding, and I'm seeing another car flying off in the distance there as well.
Probably going to be a pretty common sight today. We're watching Brain fly down here, and just ahead of him, that's 74. Oh, as he might have nullified that lap because it looks like he clipped the wall. In the meantime, Matichinsky ahead of him also had that lap deleted. So both of them having a bit of trouble. And yeah, Josh Brain sees that lap discounted by the stewards. And we are down to 15 seconds left. Who is able to start another flyer? Looks like Anzioso and Meyer might just creep across the line in time. Babic as well, 6 seconds left. Who is going to see that checkered flag first? It looks like it's going to be Thorsten Seifert in the 76.
Indeed, here he comes, a little bit squirrely again. These cars really dancing around on this majority concrete circuit. It makes it a little bit different than most places that you're going to drive. Seifert's going to come across the line. He will be able to improve, but that'll only bump him up 2 positions.
So after that, we've got Galler, Ludwig and Sauer, or Ludwig is Sauer and Tellini rather, coming through. This is Zamolo down in 42nd, who still needs a time. Let's see if this is good enough, if he's going to be waving to his friends in Italy after this. Meanwhile, Sauer did go quicker, and he goes to the pole with that one.
By a mere thousandths of a second does he go to the pole, Joe. Absolutely incredible. Almost no gap between himself and Tellini.
Looks like Titus DeJong manages to improve up to 18th as he crosses the line. Yet more drivers coming across. Maticzynski still has a chance to improve. We're watching Simon Mayer, who is up on his best lap right now. He comes out of the fountain section. In fact, it is a massive improvement from what we are seeing. And right now, he has to make up about 2/10 to get to the pole.
Yes, he does, but he is pushing. This is going to be close. He's going to get a little bit of help from the draft in the front of him. Let's see what it is at the line.
43.5 as he comes across. It'll be a 43.567, and that is just not quite there. So he is going to stay put, and I think that is everybody in our qualifying. That is done now. Our order is set, but did Galler actually start another lap? I thought he had already crossed. It looks like... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it looks like he's about a 10th up from what we can tell, so that's a pretty smooth run there out of turn 13. Let's see what he's got as he charges. This should be the last car, Joe.
Crossing the line, and no, he has already crossed, so that is it. He's already finished, and our grid is now set. Ludwig Sauer has grabbed the pole. It is Giuseppe Tolini who is going to be starting to his outside with Philip Hammer in P3. George Maticzynski is going to start from 4th today as Simon Mayer will be P5, and to his outside it'll be David Burns. Remco Pleischer starts P7. Terry McGruther will be P8. You've got Peter Galler in 9th and Vincent Brame rounding out your top 10.
Starting off in 11th, it's going to be Alexander Wilford, followed by Jeff Randall with JR Hoops and the fan belt, Johan van de Velde in 14th. Aaron Law will be to the inside of row 8, followed by Josh Brain with Nick Carty and Gordon Vandenberg and behind them. Titus DeJong will be 19th, and Heinrich Kamara rounds out your top 20.
Lorenzo Zingaretti, 21st, followed by Martin Rendell in 22nd. Then it's Ben Harris and Christopher Giros on the next row. Dan Babich starts 25th. You've got Steve Dare, 26th, and Dana Bose in 27th. Wojciech Podolak, only good enough for 28th today. Neil Bamber, 29th, and Thorsten Seifert in 30th.
31st is going to be Simone Zamolo, followed by Christopher Crook with Zach Naylor and Aiden Naylor behind him. Tony Hayes is 35th, followed by Nicholas Anderson at 36. JT Kopanen with Mark Figueres and Michael Gonzalez and Vladimir Stejgal rounding out your top 40.
The last three to qualify: Thomas Kick, Michael Parks, and Paolo Anzioso. And then from there, drivers gridded according to their iRating, and we just about have everybody out on the grid. 49 cars. This is one of the biggest fields we've seen in some time here in the Absolute Beginners League. Not exactly the track I think they wanted that to happen, but it should give us plenty of action to follow.
It should indeed, as we've got the last few popping onto the grid now, ready to go green.
The engines now start to rev as the lights come up. And the green flag is out off the line. Looks pretty decent for Sauer, and he immediately tries to cover off the inside. Few drivers also slotting themselves down towards that first apex early. Not much in the way of problems into there. It's coming off of turn 2. We got to watch out for that everybody stays clean.
Looking back through the field to see if there's any problems all the way back to about 27th. It seems clear for now, Joe. I think everybody's maintaining their good behavior.
A little bit of a battle for the lead up at the front. Tolini trying to go around the outside of Ludwig Sauer. He's almost got it done. Just clipping the grass as he enters into turn 4, and he is now your new leader.
Oh, a great move done there. People getting very, very aggressive early on, not wanting to give an absolute inch. They've got to be careful, though. If they try to keep this up during the course of the entire race, we could see some big kerfluffles.
And then we've got Maticzynski here sitting in 3rd, just giving watch. He wants to try and pull one over on Philip Hammer this season, see if he can finally get up to the top spot and take that championship. Down into the fountain section. Are we going to stay safe through here? Another big danger zone for the drivers.
Indeed, looking back to about 18th, they're clear through the first couple of corners. I think everyone on their best behavior here, not wanting to draw the ire of the stewards or their other fellow competitors. Good battle back for 17th. This is Josh Brain, Nick Carty leading a whole train of cars.
Yep, Nick Carty being chased by Titus de Jong and Christopher Giros there as they come on to Sunset Avenue now. Oh, and a big slide from de Jong, and he's going to wreck, collecting a couple more in the process. Looks like Giros in the 39 facing backwards as escaping around the outside of him. Martin Rendell also got involved miraculously. It was only 3 cars.
Yeah, that's something we didn't really get the chance to talk about, is the potential of a track blockage here. And de Jong, you can see there a little bit squirrely at the beginning coming off of that turn 11. Now dives it into the corner. This is about a 3rd gear corner. It's pretty sweeping, just carries too much speed in, and there's the collection.
Everybody else doing a very good job of being heads up to avoid the incident, thankfully. And only 3 of them finding themselves getting trapped in it. We're going to watch from Lodin at the very back, and you can see only 1 car facing backwards, or before eventually he got it whipped back around.
Indeed he is, and there looks like he's got a little bit of damage. I see a wing of one of these skippies off into the racing line there, but everybody else able to get through okay as we jump on board now with 17th place Josh Brain.
Thankfully was ahead of that incident when it happened, just in front of him. Vandenberger rather, being very close behind and missing his braking point down into the fountain section. Thankfully does not hit the tire barrier, but he ran it very close up to the edge.
Very, very close indeed. That's about as close as you can get here at Detroit without completely going into the wall. As there we continue to watch this battle. Vandenbergen, ooh, a little bit more of a lockup. Looks like that car's not exactly doing what he wants it to do.
No, it is certainly not. And here we see George Matichinsky once again, 3rd place driver, still hanging on. They've not been able to drop those behind. You said it's not really a draft track, maybe not for passes, but it does look like there are guys like Philip Hammer that are still clinging to their good positions due to some help from in front. Whoa, as Matichinsky clips the wall.
Ooh, that's not good. These skippies don't like a lot of damage to the sides of them, so that could ding up his suspension a little bit. Let's go back and check out this replay. The 74 just running the corner a little bit wide. You saw him sideways on entry to corner 1 and then brings it out, and that's just a little bit of what we talked about, Joe. You just get on the power a little bit early, and it starts as understeer, and then it'll just snap to oversteer.
Sparks flying off the car as it just flashes into the wall. Thankfully, it doesn't look like it hurt him too badly because he's still keeping pace with Ludwig Sauer. But now, Philip Hammer has gotten much closer to the back of him from that incident. He could have a good chance to try and overtake and get onto the podium. We're watching from Peter Galler here, a little bit farther back in 9th spot. He's also in the midst of a huge train of cars. In fact, this goes all the way up to the lead, it looks like.
Yeah, indeed it does. We're not seeing a whole lot of breakaways here necessarily. Goller just trying to close in on the back of, I believe that's Terry McGruther right ahead of him. Whoa! Almost a little bit of an opportunistic move down into 11. If we actually see a pass there, Joe, over the course of this, I'll be amazed. Look at that train.
Yeah, this goes way down the field at this stage. Still plenty of drivers that have not dropped it too badly. And just weaving off to the inside a little bit. That looked like Tellini trying to break that slipstream somewhat, hoping that he could get himself out of reach. And then coming down through 1 and 2. Let's see if everybody's going to be safe this time, as we got somebody actually exiting pit lane. That is Zach Naylor, who seems to have taken his spare car and is back rolling.
Well, that's definitely going to hurt him in terms of strategy, because he is going to be way off of the pit cycle here. Jumping back to a replay, you can see just how hairy this is. Drivers coming on by. Naylor luckily found a little bit of a gap in traffic there to slot himself into. But you can see there from that onboard perspective just how treacherous that pit exit is.
That timing worked out almost perfectly for him. As we come back here live to Nick Carty, a little bit farther down. Nick in 17th position. He's trying to chase on Josh Brain, who we were watching a little bit earlier in that yellow 946. Josh also flirting with the outside wall coming off of turn 6, wanting every inch of power he can get onto the long backstretch.
Yeah, just trying to get everything you can off of that corner. In turn 6, very, very difficult, as is almost every corner on this circuit. But what it really is what makes it so tricky is that you've got to try to keep your speed up as much as possible while not letting the car drift too far out and getting on the throttle too early and getting that dreaded understeer. As we got a battle here for 17th.
I think that's Naylor. He's just being lapped, so going to allow both of those cars through. He's trying not to get in the way. Unfortunately, the fountain section is not the best place to let them by. Is this Matichinsky making a move? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, but it didn't work out. He got a little bit sideways, and I thought there for a second that Philip Hammer was going to have a look at him. Let's see now if Matichinsky's able to get the car down. Little bit of snap oversteer, and again, Matichinsky into the wall.
He's only going to be able to get away with that so many times. He's still close to Ludwig Sauer. Behind him, Philip Hammer could have a shot as we now look at Wilford attempting to make a move as well. And he's going to have the inside down into turn 3, nice and easy.
Nice and easy indeed. The 25 looking at a little bit of a fight back here, but not quite able to do it. Ooh, that's a wide line, and here comes the attack.
Might have a good shot. Not often that you see passes in here and contact between two of the cars through the corner behind them. I think that was Aaron Law and Vincent Brain nose to tail.
I think it was indeed. And ooh, here comes George Matichinsky now trying to get that move done on Ludwig Sauer. They're going to be perfectly parallel going down Strand as they go in, but Sauer later on the brakes. Oh, but into the wall.
Hard into the wall, much harder than what we've seen from Matichinsky. I'm amazed he's still rolling. I would think he'd have suspension damage out of that. Let's take another look at it. He's still holding on to the position.
Yeah, that looked like a pretty big lick. Let's look at this again. You can see that defensive line. He frankly just outbraked himself.
Yep, he did get suspension damage. The car does not like right-hand turns. He just wrecked it again. They can see this is all left-handers, and that's about what saved his bacon temporarily. And unfortunately, if we stay with this, going into the double right-hander, see, you'll see it right here. You can tell, oh, something is not right now. He was very wide, and then the second time of asking, the car just would not cooperate.
No, it would not. There it goes. Yeah, you can see it just struggling to get that power down and on, and that's a big thunk into the wall. Sparks coming off the car. He's going to have to take his spare.
And just as George Matichinsky finds himself inheriting second, he's overtaken. Philip Hammer takes that away into turn 3, and there he is in front of him. Let's take a look at that pass as he went down Central Avenue, clear around the outside, and demoted him one.
Yeah, indeed, as it did look a little bit like Simon Mayer starting to get interested on George Matichinsky as well, but not able to get it done. We jump back further in that pack to Peter Goller.
Yep, this is for 8th place now after the incident in front of them with Sauer. Everybody getting promoted essentially except for our leader. And coming into the fountain section in front of him, that is Magruder. Pleiser is in there, David Burns, Simon Mayer, George Matichinsky just in front of them as well. So this is a big group of names, a lot of fast drivers in this pack.
It's a lot of fast drivers in this pack, but Joe, they've got to get a move on because of all of the battling that we saw for that second place position. Giuseppe Tellini's been able to pull out a 3-second advantage, and Hammer trying to run him down right now, but not exactly the most successful, although I am looking at some sector times. It did look like Hammer was very quick through sector 2 and may be able to gain in on Tellini.
And they see the battle for first and the big gap that you've got between Tellini and Hammer for now. Noticed as we rode on board with Gala that he's got a Harley-Davidson scheme, and when I checked, he's actually from the DH Club. Didn't we hear from Peter some sort of factoid about the Davidson brothers being related to Germany or Austria for some reason?
I feel like that may be right. I'm not entirely sure.
We'll have to, maybe he's watching. Peter, if you're out there, let us know what the deal is on that one. And yeah, there's the pretty orange and black paint scheme that he's got rolling. But right now, he's thinking about these cars in front of him rather than what is on his hood. As we jump back a little bit here, coming out of turn 3, Bamber and Kick fighting for 24th.
Yeah, and that's Kick just trying to get something on by. Ooh, wide run there for Kick as we ride on board with Neil Bamber. And you can see the trickiness of that corner. There's a lot of bumps there on the exit of turn 6, and especially in these skippies, the car likes to float up and down on those bumps. So as is with almost every corner on this track, you've just got to be very, very careful with throttle application. It's almost like you're braking into a corner where you've got to be feathering. You can't just apply straight throttle pressure. You've got to be very, very sensitive and be willing to put on and lift off as you slowly work your way up to full throttle.
Yeah, these cars, such a drastic difference compared to the Indy cars, which are more famous for racing here. So we ride on board with Remco, stuck right about smack dab in the middle of this group that we've been watching, who seem to be bleeding cars here and there. And in fact, they've made this group down to, it looks like only 9th place. Jeff Randall at the back of it. After that, they get a pretty decent gap down to Wilford.
Indeed, and at the front of this pack, Philip Hammer, once he was able to clear George Matuszynski, has been able to put in some very, very good times, actually setting the fastest lap of the race last time out. He's closing down on Tellini. He's got that gap down to about 2 seconds. We don't need to go to it now, but that's something to keep an eye on as we may have a race for the lead.
That was McGruther in the 888 that just made a smooth overtake on Pleasure in the 13 down into turn 3. So nicely done there. Onto the backstretch. Doesn't look like he's quite close enough, although that was a good exit there from the mint green number 13 car. Does he dare try and stick it in down into turn 7 as we watch from above briefly? He's getting close within a car length now. He thinks about it, but it's not close enough and he backs out.
No, he's not, as Pleasure there just continues to go around. Let's see how he takes that. I think that was a little bit of contact there in front from McGruther into that outside wall on the entrance of turn 8. Bringing it on way through there. Wow! Getting very close to the tail end.
Not afraid to get right up on him. You almost have to in these cars with how hard it is to try and make the overtake stick around here. As they come around onto the front stretch, still haven't seen any official pit stops, scheduled pit stops from anybody. They've just been drivers trying to take repairs. Back down to 20th, Zamolo stuck between the likes of Durr and Crook.
Indeed, as they work their way through this double right-hander section, another fastest lap for Philip Hammer, so really starting to close there in the lead. A little bit of a wiggle up in front there, but nothing to write home about as we jump up to Wojciech Podacek. There you can see him on your screen.
Podacek, after starting 28th, has managed to get himself up to 18th, so a 10 position climb, and oh wow, it was very close behind him, trying to go up against the wall. In fact, Podacek is our biggest mover currently, as Zamolo is our biggest mover right now. Apologies, that was up 11 spots. Almost looked at another one there as he was trying to follow in the tire tracks of Steve Durr, taking a lot of curb now through turn 4, opening up the track as much as he can.
And you've got to be very careful about that. Durr taking a lot of curbing as well. The curbs are very high here in Detroit. You don't really want to rely on them too much. Looks like there Zamolo had a little bit of a run. Not the perfect amount of speed that he would have liked coming off of turn 6. But if he's late on the brakes here, he may have a move. He's just staying behind as late as possible. Nope. Doesn't look like he wants to do it. And just a half a second spread over these 3 cars, Joe. Just throw a blanket over them.
Not much to compare, that is for sure. Christopher Crook trying to join in, making a 4-car fight, almost contact between Durr and Zamolo there. And that's not the first time he's gotten the nose right underneath the gearbox of the 19. Noticed out of turn 6, he just about ran into the back of him as we jump up to 4th now with Simon Mayer now trying to run away, but a great slipstream is going to offer David Burns the chance to overtake. No, he decides not to. He's going to fuel save.
Well, that is the modus operandi that we've come to expect from David Third Degree Burns, just sticking behind. That was Mayer getting a little bit off into the grass and off into the grass again. But Burns, always one of the most patient drivers in the field. Very, very happy to stay behind, as this is another good battle shaping up. Aaron Law and Johan van de Velde with Vincent Briem closing in behind.
This is for 11th spot. Aaron Law holds that right now. A bit of a different line between Van de Velde and Briem, but Briem cannot open up the exit well enough. He falls backwards, and now they start to unleash the power on that Skippy, getting up to over 100 miles an hour. Pleiser, who's been in this fight with Magruder for almost this whole lap, they almost swap spots into turn 3, gives it another try in his 7, doesn't quite work there.
No, certainly thought about it, but not able to do it. He's going to have to wait here again. Woo! But he's going to have to make sure that that car doesn't step out from under him as he came through turn 9. That car almost getting completely sideways.
It's Michael Park's lap down car trying to just stay out of the way of the battling competitors that just blew past. Pleiser has been overtaken by Magruder a couple laps ago, and he really wants this one back. He's been pressuring him where he can, as we now glance at Philip Hammer. And has he reeled him in? Yes, he has. He's caught up to Tellini.
He has. He has been gaining hand over fist, Joe. No, he has been purple, purple, purple again and again and again. Really closing up behind him. I've been keeping an eye on this battle. It's just outright pace alone. He's very quick through the twisty bits.
That's Klaas Ledane, who is having some issues behind them. I think he just glanced the wall, unfortunately, but he's a lap down. Another one struggling here today, as we have at least 2 cars that are officially DNF'd that I can see, Gonzalez and Harris. Otherwise, we still have people rolling. And do I see a problem with Crook and Potacek? They're falling down the order.
They're taking their first pit stop here, Joe. That's what it looks like, as you see a couple of the drivers. I think that's Zamolo as well down pit lane.
Potacek already coming back out onto the track. There you see them finding their pit stalls, and wow, Potacek did a great job of finding an opening. There's nobody around him, so not only does he have an easy exit, but now he can really put his foot down and see what kind of laps he can get in from here. Is a top 10 possible for him?
Well, it might be with some of that pit strategy. Now, as we talked about, it's not like we normally see at some of these other races, I think, in the Absolute Beginners League, where you don't want to pit out of sequence and run the risk of being alone. Is I think Tellini either going defensive or coming down pit lane. Both he and Hammer deciding to make their pit stops now.
This is a track that's not known to be all that thirsty, but in these slower skippies, probably have more on throttle time than many cars. So leaders are in. Yeah, pretty much everybody has found the limit, it looks like, as very few drivers are continuing on.
Yeah, I'm seeing, to the surprise of no one, David Burns coming in, but Tellini missed his stall. He had to back up into it, so that's going to cost him a couple of seconds, and I think that may give Hammer the advantage.
Waiting to see as they take their pit stops now. And cruising out, it looks like Philip Hammer is well ahead of Tellini. George Maticzynski gained some ground on him. He could start to feel a little bit of a slipstream as Simon Mayer also exits out just behind the 74. But now we have Philip Hammer as your leader.
He will be the virtual leader, yes, as David Burns here still has to make a pit stop. The only car not to make a pit stop in the top 29 cars.
Is he pushing this too far? It could help him out a bunch with at least 1 lap less that he has to fill in come the end of this race. We watch on board now coming through the fountain section. Looks a little bit off the apexes. I wonder if he's trying to carry that momentum as best he can, lifting and coasting.
Yeah, I think the fuel saving here and not having a draft to tuck up behind is costing him corner speed. A little bit better there to get it woed up back through 12 and 13, but he's got to be coming down pit lane now.
And he is, so looking for his pit stall. Tellini now just coming through the fountain section himself. Will probably easily go past him, but this is a strategy that we anticipate will pay dividends in the end. We watch from on board Tellini back at Hammer. There's a big distance between them. Did Hammer take a longer stop on this last one? Excuse me. Hammer ahead of Tellini is what we were looking at there. So reverse that.
Well, I think what it was is just missing that pit box for Giuseppe Tellini cost him some time. Now, David Burns is going to slot out up into 4th place. There you can see him on your screen. Now, that is going to split him between George Matuszynski and Simon Mayer. So a good pit stop there for David Burns.
All right, so that puts him back out and rolling. As David Burns looks like he'll slot in about 5th, but he's fighting side by side with Simon Mayer right now. And he finally manages to get ahead. We didn't quite see it on screen there in the background. Now they start coming up. The yellow car of David Burns just eking ahead, perhaps critical in this strategy race.
It is, but if they keep battling, Mayer's going to fall behind. I was going to say, if they keep battling like that, it was going to just cost both of them time. So we go back to check out a replay here.
I think this is Randall that we're watching. Jeff getting chase on Pleasure. This is actually live that we're looking at, and through there, Pleasure looks a little bit shaky, putting off the apex by Randall, who is going to continue to hound him, but great recovery there from Remco to keep that car from sliding into the barrier. Also didn't lose too much time to McGruther, who's still in front of him.
Yeah, indeed he is. And Jeff Randall looking very, very aggressive and hungry here. You saw just how much curbing he was taking as they make their way down on that second part of Strand Drive. Seeing what it is, we ride on board with Randall now. Some of that aggression biting him as he lost it. Philip Hammer at the front of the field sets yet another fastest lap.
This might be Philip Hammer's race to lose. The way things are going, Tellini, there's the distance between them now, as the two drivers fight hard for the opening salvo in this back and forth battle. It may only be 5 rounds, but that makes every race important. Remember, there are no drop weeks in this series.
No, there are not. And Giuseppe Tellini in a whole world of trouble, having already been passed by Philip Hammer. He now has George Matuszynski all over the back of him in that 74 machine, putting some good pressure here to the Italian.
Like I said, George missing out on the championship last season, who looked fast, but just didn't have the consistency that we saw from others. There is the lap time comparison, and Tellini is looking much slower as it sits right now, consistently losing out to his rival. I think really the wild card is this man right here, David Burns, who's actually been passed by Mayer when we weren't looking, so he had overtaken him on the way out of the pit lane, and somewhere he's lost it.
Yeah, and I watched that happen, Joe. It looked a little bit like he backed off potentially, so not a whole lot going on there. I think Burns relatively content to just save some more fuel.
It seems to be the way he likes to race. He was notorious for so long for short fueling it by accident. Now he is the master of that one. And a little bit of a weave to the inside from there. That was strange. Maybe didn't want to give him as much slipstream as he could and was trying to pull offline. But regardless, his rival David Burns stays there as they go by Christopher Crook, who's just coming out from his pit stop and on to Central Avenue once again. And yeah, I think Mayer is trying to break the draft here.
Yeah, he is going super defensive, and Burns doesn't exactly look like he wants to pass by him, and so that is exactly that strategy that we would expect from David Burns. Just happy to stay behind right here. It jumped him up 2 or 3 positions in that last round of pit stops. He may be trying to stay out another again.
Little bit off the apex there that time from Mayer. Clearly he's pushing hard once again, just not really getting it up close to those inside walls. But that might not be the worst thing in the world if David Burns is content to sit behind. So right now your top 5 in between the 2 stops: Hammer, Tellini, Matuszynski, Mayer, and Burns.
Indeed, they are. Burns a little aggressive there on those curbs coming through the fountain section. A little bit smoother there through turn 8. Ooh, a little bit sideways as well. So this track just proving to be a full handful for even the best drivers, as that was a very late apex for Simon Mayer.
Man, don't know what is causing him the struggles, unless he's just losing concentration, getting distracted by David, which again, I don't think he needs to be. It doesn't seem like he should be under pressure. We ride on board now with Matichinsky, who still chases on Tolini. Tolini missed his pit stall, handing over the lead that he handily held for much of the first part of this race. And our biggest mover has changed hands, the man that I accidentally called for it last time, Wojciech Podacek, who is now up into the 18th spot from 28th.
He is indeed, and he's often kind of an island unto himself here, running along in that 18th position. He's got about 2 seconds up the road to Zinga and about, looks like 2 seconds back, but to Nick Carty. But right now we focus back with George Matichinsky as this battle for P2 continues to develop.
Just had a 3-wide situation. Jeff Randall being overtaken twice by Wilford and Law down into turn 3, and they kept it clean. This one's worth a replay here. There you can see they are still close together. But watch this. Not often that you see these sort of incidents along the front stretch into turn 3. So we'll see it a little bit after this. Already looking like Randall is under pressure here on the front stretch.
Indeed, as here we go. That's a good run in the back there. They come out of turn 2, and you can see the overspeed for those two trailing cars starting to develop. There's the one for the 79, just poking his nose to the outside. 1, 2, 3 wide.
From above, they start to space out, try and find themselves some room, and Randall really wants to fend them off, but he has to brake early, being so far inside, and they both swing around him.
So it's going to be a little discouraging there for Jeff Randall, but he is still close enough to be able to hold it. Here is David Burns again, just still continuing to stalk in the footsteps of Simon Mayer. And if I'm David Burns, I've got to be feeling really happy right now. Whoa, there's a big lockup there in front.
Lockup, or somebody hit the wall or something. There is a bunch of smoke there out of turn 2. Also, Ludwig Sauer just pitted, so he's affecting his final stop and is good to go to the end from here. We've got a replay. Is this what happened? This looks like a blown engine, maybe. No, that is a borked suspension of some sort. And there it is. Oh, just backed it in. And that's day over.
Yeah, that's Aiden Naylor, who is running back in the 20s and 30s of the race. And so he is going to find himself all the way back down in 42nd.
Okay, the plot thickens. Ludwig Sauer is now 21st after exiting pit lane, but he's done and he's good to go to the finish. The question is, will the clear track that he's now got in front of him help him for the rest of the race? As we watch this battle on screen, getting very tight down into the fountain section. Usually you don't go too wide through there. Nope, excuse me, that's lap traffic. Just letting them through.
Yeah, indeed, and that's that battle with Burns and Mayer that we've been following. Mayer just trying to stay out of the way. But look at this. This is Peter Goller there in the 66 behind. He's starting to close in on the back of Burns. All of that fuel saving maybe coming back to bite him here, and he might find himself under pressure.
Absolutely. Peter Goller with Terry Magruder in tow as well. And see if they can catch up to him, make his life miserable. But again, we think that David Burns should have a very short stop, and if he can just last, he might be able to leap himself away, as it appears Jeff Randall is now the next one to take his final stop. Starting to see a few gamblers taking alternate strategies as opposed to the usual run as long as you can and then pit that we see in most series. We'll see if that pays off. Wilford, despite hoping for something, is not going to get anything down into turn 3. I'm trying to figure out, is Wilford running an old school Sauber BMW paint scheme?
I think he just might be. That's what those colors look like, and if so, I'm a big fan. I used to love that car, obviously with Kubica running around in that machine as he continues to stalk Aaron Law there. That's a little bit of lap traffic directly in front of him.
Should hopefully let them by pretty easily. That's one good thing. Despite this large field, we haven't really seen traffic play havoc with many of these battles, so they've been good so far. And on past Christopher Crook, Aaron Law retains that spot in front of Wilford, just inside the top 10. We're down to 18 minutes left to go, and only 2 drivers seem to have really taken their second stop. Now Zamolo gets the biggest mover back. He's gone up from the 31st spot into 17th.
He is doing a great job as Ludwig Sauer is one of the drivers that has fallen the most, if not the most. He's down 19 on the day. Remember, he started off in pole position.
But he's stopped, remember. He's already taken his second stop, and he is good to go to the finish. So he should be gaining a bunch of spots here pretty soon. As we watch from Matichinsky, he is just stalking Tolini. Hasn't really made moves, which surprises me a bit. Would have thought he'd be eager to try and get by. But so far, just kind of watching that gearbox, waiting for the right chance.
I'll tell you who is making moves. That's David Burns behind him, who is side by side with Mayer going through turns 4 and 5. Oh my goodness, Burns finally on by. He's got the move done.
Nice stuff there between those two. There you see the side-by-side coming into turn 5. And this carries on a little bit after this. Watch this, because Galler's going to try and come back, or Mayer's going to try and come back at him. Sticks it up the inside, given just enough space, and still retaining the spot. Burns now into 4th.
So he's going to do that, and now that has allowed for Goller to really close up behind and bringing McGruther along with him. We jump back to check out that replay here.
Looks like we are live currently. There's McGruther, who we hop on board with. Coming along Sunset Avenue now. Sunset Drive, rather, I should say, as they weave through the double right-handers. Cars sliding a lot, but these skippies do like to slide across the pavement, and they've got David Burns pitting. Surprising to see him pit early, as typically his strategy is going to make him want to run long. Meanwhile, our leader just set the fastest lap of the race, Philip Hammer, and Matichinsky just overtook Tolini. It must be the time to make moves, because we're starting to see multiple drivers take action.
We are indeed, Joe, and that tells me that we are about to have pit stops starting to kick off for the rest of this field, because you want to be ahead by the time you dive down pit lane. We ride on board with here. This is a replay of the pass. Wider entry into that second corner. That's the way to do it. Oh, and it was contact into the wall for Tolini.
Now the driver getting very lucky, pushing the limits of this street course, but just sending sparks up, somehow able to keep rolling. Matichinsky a mere half-second ahead. We look from on board Tolini now, hoping he could get that one back.
He's going to be trying to... Whoa! That wasn't a turn. That was a drift into that corner.
And that is Mark Figueres in front of them, and nice timing. Nicely done by Mark, just staying out of their way, but the damage is done, and Matichinsky finds Tolini right back on his gearbox once again. Let's take a look at this move once again. This is great timing, being aware of your surroundings, and just finds the perfect spot to give space without holding them up.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. That's the kind of class that we've come to expect here from the Absolute Beginners League. Absolutely perfect stuff. Whoa, lock up there in the back.
And we got drivers pitting. Galler's in, McGruther, and it looks like Pleasure as well. In fact, there's almost contact between McGruther and Galler on pit lane, as they were very close to one another. You can see them trying to find space as they have to go through one another once they hit their pit stall. Who is going to come out in front of this? It's going to be close because of how tight they were on pit entry. Galler had the advantage on the way in. and just barely has the advantage on the way out. Look at that. Nothing to separate them.
Absolutely nothing at all, and this is going to set up, oh, they're going to come out right in the midst of traffic. This is going to be very interesting in terms of how this is going to battle. Here comes McGruther on Gawler. I think he is going to be very hungry to try to make a move here. Gawler trying to tuck up behind in the draft, and the cars in front of him to the best of his abilities.
That Jordan livery car that you saw at the bottom of your screen briefly, that was David Burns, who has taken the first person to have taken a stop. There he flashes by once again. So he's the highest to have finished his pit stops, and he sits in ninth, waiting for all those in front of him to finally pop in and take their service. There he is now in the 125 car. So he's got a gap in front of him, but that'll allow guys like JR Hoops, Josh Brain to come in, take their stops, and he shouldn't run into them without them having to come in and take service. 13 minutes left on the clock. Usually we see cars go pretty late here, so expect them to go as far as 5 minutes to go. Meanwhile, we've got Giuseppe Tellini in the 27 pitting in.
And Simon Mayer behind them, Aaron Law as well. So a lot of drivers opting to come down the lane here. Let's see if Tellini is able to hit his marks this time around. Remember, he missed them last time. Much better there for the Italian. He comes to rest right where he should.
Remember, we saw Tellini clip the wall a little bit, and looks like he didn't have to take his free repair, at least that I could see, as the car did not pop anything back into position. So looks like he's good. And back out on the track, where is David Burns? Burns is just behind him. You saw a little bit of that yellow in the background, but it's not close enough. It looks to me like he's about a second behind.
Yeah, and so this is where David Burns is really going to have to hustle himself around. He can't really rely on the draft too much, as we talked about. He is just going to have to go for broke.
And to tell you how much the fuel saving helps, 10 seconds in the stall compared to 13 for Tellini.
All right, so strategy starting to be a big part of all of this here. This is going to be absolutely fascinating to see how this plays out, Joe.
Back to Ludwig Sauer, first one to take a scheduled stop amongst our drivers. Second scheduled stop, that's Pleiser in front of him, McGruther and Gawler. This is all for ninth place, and it is all on strategy because every one of them have pitted twice.
And our leader, Philip Hammer, is down pit lane, so he has pulled the trigger here.
Well, look at this almost three wide portion. Oh, and a little bit of a side-to-side bump as Gawler gets shoved out of the way. McGruther gets through, and Pleiser says, thank you, I'm going to make that stick too.
Let's go back and check out that replay. Three wide going down Strand Drive. You can see the little bit of a love tap there, putting Gawler offline, and good job from all drivers to keep that load up underneath them.
Rimco was not sitting around on that one. This might be the end of the pit window, actually. Maybe it's a little bit sooner than I remember, because Maticzynski in, Wilford is in, Hammer is already back out. That's pretty much all of our leaders. Zamolo now pits, so we're waiting on just a few of the mid-packers to come and get to the pit entry, but all the effective leaders are finished with their stops.
Yeah, they are indeed, and so Hammer is has a big 9-second lead right now to George Maticzynski, so he's just got to focus and bring this car home. Maticzynski only about 2 to 3 seconds up the road, but we've got another great battle in the back.
Oh, Fanny, almost 4 wide here, coming down into turn 3. I didn't think that was going to work out. More contact between them, but it is Ludwig Sauer who somehow sneaks by all of them and gets himself into 8th.
Good work there by Ludwig Sauer. Remember, he was on a little bit of an alternate strategy after having some damage early on. Let's ride on board with this. You can see him just trying to hold off that flock of skippies behind them as they go in Noah's Ark style. There is all coming together, and just a little bit of a love tap, but still able to woe it up, and another tap just for good measure.
Unbelievable. That is immense trust between these drivers. Well, yeah, Sauer, I was surprised to see him playing defense. Apparently, he got past them on the front stretch of all places. Here's David Burns. How it all shook out with his fuel-saving strategy. He's in 4th, but he's got Tellini right in front of him.
Yes, he does, and looking very aggressive if he can. trying to see if he can get his way forward. He's not going to be able to rely on fuel strategy here. He's got to get this pass done on merit. Also, Tellini starting to close in a little bit on Matichinsky, that gap coming down.
Yeah, but it is not coming down for Hammer. It seems our previous season's champion has picked up exactly where he left off. This is one of the closest fights, was one of the closest fights there between the top group, but we take a glance at Hammer giving him some love. Here comes Burns with the slipstream. No more fuel saving to be had, hopefully at least, if he got the calculations right. Oh, way off into the grass on the exit there for Tellini. I can't believe he didn't spin that thing.
I can't believe he didn't either. He is really feeling the pressure here from David Third Degree Burns. They're a little bit off the apex, coming through the corner now, working their way onto the backstretch. Let's see if David can get a good run here to maybe put up a challenge as they come off of 6. It looks like he just lost a little bit of time.
And not as close as he needs to be, that is for sure. And so, oh, Ludwig Sauer just had a big problem. Big wreck for Ludwig Sauer, and he takes a tow. What happened here? This was a battle that finally went sour. Gawler made a move, and unfortunately, that sent him around.
Yeah, Gawler tries to go up the inside here of the left-hander. Oh,
and that's Wilford also having some issues getting tipped in the back. And then you could see, unfortunately, Ludwig getting hit twice by Wilford as well.
So what happens to Sauer here? Wilford gets tipped. I think Sauer just lost that on his own, Joe.
No, he got help to the inside. I think Gawler made some contact. Tellini's in. Tellini's in pit lane. What happened to Giuseppe? He smashed the wall and turns 11 and 12, or 12 and 13 rather. Takes the spare car, pops back out, but Giuseppe Tellini with a critical mistake that hands a podium away.
And I just went back and watched it. He just brought too much speed into turn 12. The front end of the car not giving, or the rear end of the car not giving enough grip. Just hard out into the wall. Let's watch this replay. And this is exactly what David Burns was trying to do. There you can see it gets a little bit too much of the curb. Just four-wheel drifts it across. Massive damage. That is why you apply the pressure and don't try to be over-aggressive if you're David Burns. The pressure just getting to Tellini and making him crack.
I guess the one convenient thing was the car could still drive, and he limped it back to pit lane as we come back to Jeff Randall in a 3-wide now. And Gawler once again involved in it. He's managed to survive this long. Can he keep it safe from here? He has certainly been in the midst of the action. Sends it in deep, just behind the lap car of Nick Anderson, who is now blocked up by. Is this going to allow an opportunity for Randall to try and fight back? No, Anderson going to pull off to the side for them.
And there you can see it going on, but I don't think Aaron Law wants to let that go too quietly. Law trying to hold on to the best as he can to the back of it. He's only got about 0.2 of a second as this is going to get a little bit spicy. This is our closest battle here in the top 10.
Law was trying to catch up to that group and unfortunately unable to keep with them due to that traffic. But here comes the likes of Jeff Randall, Peter Gawler, to the outside, does not defend coming into turn 1. Will we see more defense down Central Avenue potentially all the way up onto the curbs for both of them? Onto Central Avenue over the bridge, and not the greatest of runs from the 107.
No, just didn't look like he necessarily had the speed. We ride on board with Dana Bose. Now, this is a battle back in 27th right now. That is Martin Rendell and JT Koppen, and directly ahead of him, a nice little 3-way battle as they work their way through the fountain section.
Bose, interestingly, is they're actually exactly where they started this race. So the 48 has neither gained nor lost from here. Oh, and we come a little bit farther forward now to Gordon Vondenbergen, who looks like he has a great chance to try and overtake Neil Bamber, who stays all the way to the inside. Will he be able to make it from that shallow of an angle? He gives lots of space around the outside, but he also sends it in a little bit deep. Almost elbows his rival off the course. They're going to stay in the same position, but I think they managed to avoid contact.
barely managed to avoid contact, but didn't manage to avoid locking up the brakes a little bit. But this battle is certainly going to continue on as long as those drivers don't get too aggressive with the curbs and completely throw off the car. Gordon Vandenbergen really wheeling that 50 around.
Car is definitely experiencing the bumps here at Detroit. We can hear it just clattering against the pavement, and he's going to go to the inside once again. This time Bamber does not cover off, lets him through, goes for the over-under, but it's not there, and Vandenbergen will get 17th spot.
Yeah, he's able to hold on to it, and there they continue around through the fountain section, just trying to minimize that error through that tricky turn 11.
We come on over to Aaron Law once again. He's caught up to Jeff Randall now, and Randall must have had some sort of mistake because he was about a second behind him and easily passed him. Pete Goller still up there. Let me go back and check to see if Randall had some sort of off or contact with the wall.
I'm not entirely sure what happened, Joe, but yeah, he certainly has fallen back here.
Not seen anything. He was just very slow for a few corners, and not outrageously so. Just like he was a few tenths off here and there. Wonder if he hit something much earlier, and maybe the... Yeah, I think he might have a bit of damage that we can't see. Maybe some suspension damage.
And he's got some internet problems, and Joe, when you blink like that, it's not just your car blinking. If you're behind the wheel of the car, all of the other cars blink around you, and that can really throw off your mental concentration, which is a big thing at a street circuit like this.
You know what? I'm looking at the suspension of Randall's, and I think the right-hand side, his right, is a little bit scrunched. It looks just slightly bent to me.
Yeah, just a little bit, ever so slightly, you can see it.
Oh, well, Jeff now falls back into 8th and doesn't look like he has the pace to keep up with the others. But I believe we are going to be getting white flag next time by for Philip Hammer, who still leads by a handy 12 seconds over everybody else. We're watching Durr in his race, and there's another clip of the wall there for the driver ahead of him.
Yep, and that is going... Wow!
Gotta give space here. That's Simone Zamolo, who hit the wall and is almost squeezing his rival down into the wall. Now finds himself going a little bit wide, and there is job done maybe for Durr, fighting back a little bit. Zamolo not giving up. Now on to Central Avenue. Durr finally into 14th.
And he is going to be very happy to get that done, but man, oh man, you can't get any closer. But here comes Zamolo, potentially with a fight back, trying to break late, going down into turn 3. They're going to be side by side, carries a little bit too much speed, but Zamolo has it back.
It is a street fight today. Nobody's taking prisoners out there, and working hard. Back to Nick Carty here in 16th, who, thanks to all that fighting, has caught up to them.
Has indeed, and you can see him stalking there. Oh, I think that was Zamolo getting a little bit too sideways as they came around the corner, and Steve Durr recognizes that he's ready to make a pounce here.
Carty is gaining hand over fist on those two, and if they keep fighting like this, I don't think this is going to end well. As he goes a little bit deep once again, this has gotten disaster written all over it for me. They are fighting incredibly hard for the 14th position.
It just goes to show you the talent up and down this field, that they are fighting for every scrap of points that they can get. Absolutely incredible.
Worry that one of them is going to wind up in the wall or tangled with one another here. So we watch from Philip Hammer, half a lap to go. Going to put a lap on Paolo Anzioso there in front of him, the 71, who sees it coming. Pulls over to let him by. The 60 starting this race from 3rd on the grid. May not have been the fastest on one lap pace, but Philip Hammer knows that the points are handed out once we get to the race itself. Made sure to put himself in a good position, kept the car clean, and he only needs 2 more real corners to go, and job is done for round 1 of our current reigning champion. The number 60 heads into turn 12. Up ahead of him, a little bit of more lap traffic. Martin Rendell just in front, out of 13. 14's a flat-out right-hander, which means Philip Hammer is going to be your winner here today in Detroit.
He is indeed, and right behind him, there's that battle with Carty and Durr continuing to shape up as they work their way through these final couple of corners, working their way onto the backstretch right now.
They still fight for this position very, very hard, and there you see a little bit of celebration for Philip Hammer, but Carty trying hard to catch up to Durr. And Zamolo has already gotten by. Now they've got lapped cars in between them. Naylor just wanted to finish his own race at this stage, not really pulling out of the way for poor Steve Durr.
No, not helping him out at all, but I don't know if it's going to matter. There he pulls out of the way. Carty looks a little far back.
Yeah, that is going to scupper any hopes that he had of trying to take that position. And that really is the last battle we've got on track, as 26 drivers look like they're going to complete all 29 laps here today. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Bradley Hawley does not get going. Everybody has to try and take avoiding maneuvers, someone even taking to the grass. And the front row just had a horrible start as Raymond Day also gets swamped. Boucher is going to go from fourth to first by the first turn.
That is now Ozzie Milwain trying to take a little bit of a look. Oh, what a great move by Michael Broomhead. Caught Andrew Hardman napping, and now they're going to be side by side going into the Curva Grande. There's Fonseca and McKenzie still going at it down into Rint. Fonseca holding it out for now. A little bit of a better run, though, for McKenzie.
Oh, and a bump. He gets into the back of him. Fonseca spins off. And McKenzie, is he going to get third? Because here comes Tavitas, and Tavitas takes third away from both of them.
Indeed, and now Almanar looking for a little bit of a fight back. He's going to poke his nose to the inside. That's a very tricky area to try to get that move done. Move's going to favor back, but Almanar's going to hold it around the outside. He has got it done and dusted. A great move for Jonathan Almanar.
Allowing him to retain that sixth position for now, but once again, a better exit, and this time the over-under worked a treat for Corey Lotfula. He's going to get the inside, and this drag race up to 130R should go in his favor, depending on how brave Doug Bacchignone is. Let's see, and not brave enough is the answer.
You heard that exasperation out of me, Joe. A bad push there, catches it, taps from behind, completely sideways, massive opposite lock, and he keeps it pointed the right way. Great job, Byron McDonald.
This is it. Big draft. Almost middle of the road there for Topi Kortanimi. Up the inside goes Togo Hisada. He has to get on the brakes, though. They're side by side through 130R. This is the battle for the win on the final lap here. Kortanimi stays defensive, coming into the Casio triangle. Squeezing him.
Karthik Pai cannot do much here except break as late as he dares, which he tries and keeps an overlap into the left-hander around the right-hander. He's got the outside. That tends to see better momentum, and it does this time. But now he's on the long way around from multiple corners and just gets fed out to the outside of the track. It is not there for Karthik Pai, and he finally gives up the ghost. Defensive move out of Mark Kalin denies him for now, but he goes a little wide at the apex.
Does indeed. There you see the move from Jacques Boucher. He's going to try to take it out into that little kink now, but he's going to have to go the long way around Cascades. It's not going to work out, but that's going to open up the door to Bradley Hawley. There he goes on through up into the podium position.
Welcome back to Detroit. We just saw round one of the Absolute Beginners League, and Philip Hammer picked up where he left off, took the championship last season, took the first win this season. George Matichinsky just didn't have anything for him. It was a full 13 seconds behind at the line. That second place, with Third Degree Burns finishing where else but third place. It was Simon Mayer who finished P4, followed by Terry McGruther in fifth and Peter Goller in all kinds of action today. But still coming home was sixth as Aaron Law gained from 15th to 7th in his race. Giuseppe Tellini P8 as Jeff Randall was 9th, and Vincent Brame finished where he started in 10th.
Coming home in 11th, it was JR Hoops, followed by Wojciech Podacek with Josh Brain 13th and Simone Zumolo in 14th. Steve Durr was able to hold off Nick Carty at the end to secure 15th, with Carty coming home 16th and Neil Bamber behind them in 17th. Thomas Kick was 18th, and Titus Jeong and Thorsten Seifert round out your top 20.
Christopher Giros 21st today with Johan van der Belt. Only good enough for 22nd. Unusually average day for Johan as Henrik Kamara finished 23rd and Gordon Vandenbergen was 24th. Last two on the lead lap were Bose and Pleasure, with Paolo Anzioso getting lapped on the very last lap in 27th. Lorenzo Zingaretti 28th and Ludwig Sauer 29th. And it's Nico Roman in 30th.
In 31st, it was Dan Babbitt, followed by Tony Hayes with JT Copen in 32nd and Martin Randall in 34th. Christopher Crook was 35th, followed by Barry Stockdale with Nicholas Anderson and Zach Naylor behind him. Then getting down into the drivers who were multiple laps down was Alexander Wilford and Vladimir Sketskal.
Yep, unfortunately, everybody from here was a DNF. Didn't get to see the checkered flag out there today. But David Burns got to see it and managed to get himself up onto the podium. Let's have a quick chat with the 125 driver to see his thoughts on kicking things off at a frighteningly difficult track. David, this is a tough one to start at, but you seem to handle it well with a little bit of that signature fuel saving.
Yeah, tough one. You're telling me with VR on top, I'm a little sweaty right now. But yeah, fuel saving was the name of the game, but nowhere near as good as Hammer. He's so good. He really is.
Yeah, you found yourself pitting a little early, it seemed, on that second stop. I was kind of surprised when we saw you pop in. Was that outside of plan, or did you kind of know you wanted to stop with a bit of a shorter middle stint?
It was dictated by Simon, basically, because I could see he didn't want to work together. He was covering the inside line, and I could see his pace was slightly slower than mine. Plus, I was reading the amount of back markers that we were coming up against, and I thought, well, I can go in the pits now, and I may stand a chance of jumping him. So it definitely worked out, because his pace was holding me up a little, and he wasn't willing to work together. So that's why I went in the pits.
Well, I have to imagine next round you're probably very excited about. We go to Knock Hill for the first time for the Absolute Beginners League. Are you thrilled about getting to race on home soil?
Yes, I've raced around there a few times in some cars myself, because it's literally 2 minutes up the road from me. So yes, I'm really excited. I love that track in other games, so I'm glad it's here.
I'm very jealous that you're so close, because I have to say I've fallen in love in the short time we've had it. But congratulations on a podium. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Just everyone, as always. Nice to see a lot of new members, yourself for doing the broadcast, as always. And trust me, being at Knock Hill, you want to be racing because it's freezing most of the time.
That was David Burns, who took third today and is off to Scotland for his next race. But it looks like we're going to close it out, of course, with a big thank you to the Absolute Beginners League for bringing us back for another season of coverage. But we also want to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Ryan, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through social media listed here on the screen. And also check out our merchandise store. It's gsrc.storenv.com. There's a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. As we mentioned, the next race at the brand new Knock Hill, Sunday, January 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. And up next, Big C's MX5 Challenge is going to Daytona. That will definitely be a draft race. That'll be at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.